You're listening to I'm Telling You. You're listening to I'm Telling You.
Hey fam, welcome back to another episode of I'm Telling You.
I'm telling you.
Focus. Oh, yes. As always, the antics ensued instantaneously. This is your host, Philly D.
Mr. Gemini.
And clickety clack, a fact checker.
This JD.
Yeah, the extraordinaire. She creates a ruckus.
That's right.
And she brings it with the facts, too. And she looks like she's going to land a plane.
She brings the mother ruckus. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you know, it's because Miss JD is forever.
That's right.
But yeah, this is, if you would like, please reach out to us, ity@directionsofmusic.org.
That'll get all of us.
Yeah, all three at the same time. Or individually.
Gemini, Gemini, @directionsofmusic.org.
Yeah, your robot keeps getting better, bro. Yeah, Philly D, PHILLYD, @directionsofmusic.org. Yeah, for first-time listeners, this is a 30-plus year friendship of you and I talking about anything and everything.
You and I.
Yeah, so much so that we literally have no idea what we're going to talk about until it comes out of our mouths.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, this is raw, organic, uncut. I mean, this is as live as you're going to get.
Let it flow.
Let yourself go.
Slow and low. That is the tempo.
Yeah, we also do music quotes, movie quotes, dad jokes.
Dad quotes.
Movie jokes. Yeah, we do those too. Yeah, no, this is an hour of us just being,
Focus.
trying to. Somehow or another, we always get button hooked, whether it's intentional or it just happens.
It's all part of the show.
It really is. Yeah,
And it can't be any other way because that is.
I mean, you can't write this shit, bro.
Just hit record. That's what we do. We just talks and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much. No, we turn on the mics and we let it go. That's what we do. And then sometimes, chin chin. Sometimes we drink beers.
Sometimes we drink beers and stuff.
This time we're actually drinking your beer.
So my man was out of beers.
Yeah, you came with a cache of alcoholic beverages that you brewed personally.
Almost didn't make it.
Which, yeah, we're already aware you vented once. We don't need again.
No, we don't need to go over that again. That was
I mean, unless you really do. I mean, if you require that, this is a safe space, which is another beautiful thing that we do here.
Unless you guys want to reference it, I'm pretty good with that.
Good, because I'm tired of you bringing up old shit. So we can just go ahead and move on to the beer.
Well then,
what do we drink? Because you're pouring them. So I mean, let's just get right into it. What are we drinking tonight, my friend?
Yeah, so this would be a Smash English Pale Ale.
And what does that mean?
So Smash, just single malt, single hop. Oh, shucks, what's that?
Little extra floaties. That's all right.
You're good.
Yeah, no, dude, I need more dietary fiber. We're cool.
So that is a type of barley in the English style of pale called Maris Otter, and it's paired with Fuggles.
Fuggles!
Which always gets a laugh, but...
Down at Fuggle Rock.
Yeah.
Where's Uncle Traveling Matt when you
And I told
him?
you the one I'm waiting for it's going to be a week from Friday.
The Johnson's underwear.
Johnson's underwear. I'm lovingly calling it that. I'm not sure if it's really going to fit the name.
Bro, I'm telling you, just as far as names go, because it's like, hey, here, smell this. What is it? It's Johnson's underwear. Yeah, would you like to smell Johnson's underwear?
I still want to call it Johnson's underpants, but that's not an actual quote.
Well, but see, this would be the approximate 73%, which would make it correct for you. So there is that.
You see. It's the again.
But it's the continuous, really. It's not so much an if as it is a when.
So I've poured yours rather neatly.
Yeah, what's the ABV on this, Broseph?
This is like
is this a Saturday beer?
It's a low 4. It's like
this is all day crusher.
My notes, but it was slightly above 4. It was a 4.1, 4.5 somewhere. But it's a 4 basically.
220, 221, whatever it takes.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
Oh yeah. That's really only 4%, bro.
I mean, I think it's a pretty easy drinking beer with a lot of character.
That's what I'm saying.
Something that's really there's not much to it.
It's really only 4%, bro.
4, give or take. It's take. It's actually it's more than 4, but I can't remember exactly without looking at my notes. It's
definitely under a 5.
Less than 4.5.
So like way less than 5.
Maybe a 4.4 max. I can't remember. I have to look at my notes, but
that's what I'm saying, dude. This is
important. But
dude, that is dope for a 4-ish percenter. I would drink that on the regular. Like that's a solid all day crusher right there.
It's got too much flavor, I think, for a lawnmower beer, but
I don't think so.
No?
I'll be honest with you. I mean,
it's interesting how the whole point of doing a smash beer is to kind of get to know your ingredients without complicating it with all kinds of other things. You know, I'm not putting any crystal malt in there. I'm not putting any dark or roasted malts. It's one malt. So you get the character and the flavor of the malt, which I pretty much munch on a regular when I'm measuring it out for people. So it's a very interesting flavor. It's got an interesting.
I mean, bro, I would like tag this as a session. This is sessionable. It really is.
I wouldn't put it in the IPA category. It has to be much more. It has to be dry hopped or much more bitter, I think.
No.
You don't think so?
Dude, the way I look at it is anytime you start adding hops into the mix as like a thing, as opposed to just like for a little bit of flavor or bite or something like that, dude, it's an IPA. I mean, it's just, to me, IPA says
I would just call it a pale. I mean, because you need hops to make a beer. Honestly, otherwise it's not a beer. It's if you use, because in the old fashioned, I think they I want to say, well, I'm thinking in Europe, the something about ale and like a beer ale. I forget what it was. There was different terminology based on, I think, the older ales commonly didn't have hops. They had other bittering techniques that they'd use. So, I mean, different herbs and stuff they would actually put into the, whether it was the mash or the boil, that would add the bitter. Well, I guess the boil to add the bittering to it. You know, I'm trying to think of. There's a whole list of them. I can't, for whatever reason, think of a single
green
one.
room. Yeah, well, because we had a couple of 8%ers in the green room, bro. Let's be honest here.
That was my braggot, which is like 8.
Yeah, not to brag, but
8.6, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, those were, and 2 of them.
And kind of tastes, well, it effervesces like champagne.
It definitely tastes
like it's got some tropical fruit notes, but it's very much of a bubbly wine type of flavor.
Yeah, it was definitely a bright body. I'll give you that.
I think if I do it again, I want to use a darker malt and more of it.
What for? To give it more tone?
To give it more of a malty character, because it really doesn't have much. It still, to me, tastes a lot like a champagne, which is very much it's just a sparkling wine. Right. I
mean, in a sense, yeah.
Well, I mean, true champagne only comes from the province of Champagne, France, but...
Well, right, but I mean, to me, a Saison being more of that, like, farmhouse grain kind of a beer typically is much brighter and having that same kind of, like, champagne or effervescence or bubbliness to it. You know, I rather enjoy those. I mean, if they're done right. Because typically they're almost like sour or overly bubbly.
They tend to have a little bit of a sour note to them without being a sour. Because I can't stand sours, but...
Me neither, man. But dude, I'm serious. I'm
just enough to
crush
add
this,
character.
man.
Yeah?
This is crushable.
I mean, I've been drinking them because I'm trying to stay away from drinking the beer that my wife pays for and puts in the fridge. And honestly, it is good because it seems like every time I try it, it gains a little bit more character. It as they say, mellows out. Like a lot of the over time after chilling, a lot of the sediment will drop out, which is what you saw me drinking earlier. It's kind of a combination of yeast and just particulate matter from the mash
Yeah,
because
it happens.
it's unfiltered. I mean, and a lot of beers, if it's properly done, well, and it's much different when you're doing it on a larger scale too. It tends to be a lot neater.
Right, but
Because the grain-
typically,
because the what's called the trobe isn't as close to most of the beer because it's just you're working with a much larger quantity. So not that it's filtered, but there's the lautering is done properly and it's whatever. But anyway, the even like a hazy, like when you drink a hazy, like having a cloudy complexion, you know, whether it's a light or a medium bodied and colored beer, generally has a cloudy consistency to it, which is usually due to putting wheat into the mash as well as barley.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like little things like that you do intentionally to add character.
yeah, and I think some add lactose instead to try to give it that like milky or hazy body as well. Like there's more than more than a few. Yeah, I mean,
You
but
shouldn't have to. I mean,
correct.
in
Like,
some people's
the proper
opinion,
hops and everything picked, you should be able to
Yeah,
orchestrate.
in some people's
what you're
opinion,
looking
that's
for.
kind of cheating.
I mean, I agree with this.
I mean, there's ways to.
There's ways to get that body. There's ways to get those
There's
notes.
there's ways to vary the end result, and a lot of it, believe it or not, most of it, I would say, comes from what you would call the cold side of brewing beer. So, which comes during the time when you're fermenting. If you control right in the mid range of your yeast's favorite temperature, basically, if you're right in the mid range, then you're not going to get a whole lot of what's called like esters coming off from the yeast. Esters can create kind of a certain fruity notes in some kind of a beer. In some types of beer, it's actually desired, like the kind of is it like banana and kind of a nutmeg flavor that you get from certain German beers, like you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it's a Hefeweizen or.
Yeah, I think
like
the
that.
Hefe is the typical because the Berliner is more like real sour.
But those are notes that are specific to that type of yeast because that's that type of beer. So it actually accentuates that. But like you can actually do that accidentally with a whole different type of yeast that's not trained for that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's basically, you know, genetically designed. I mean, they've gotten so far with yeast. I mean, originally these guys were doing it with whatever yeast was on the fruit or adding bread yeast or whatever it was that was around.
Yeah, right.
And all
just
these
to
things,
just to get it going.
all these things over time. I mean, like the kind of yeast they're coming out with now, they're so specific, which is funny because some brewers will actually use, like I think I was telling you before, not that it would mean anything, but just like a standard US-05, which really, it's very balanced. It doesn't give off any, you can use it for any type of beer, basically.
Yeah, it just eats the stuff and then makes alcohol.
Like,
It's
it doesn't-
here's your juice.
Yeah, because a lot of the yeasts will give off certain flavors when they eat certain type of sugars or when they're in a certain type of atmosphere. Like if it's too hot. So that's the other thing I was getting to. Like you could intentionally, by creating a very high temp fermentation condition,
Right.
you could intentionally create esters from the fermentation of your beer, from it fermenting too fast, basically, and stressing the yeast a little bit. And that's what'll happen. And hopefully it doesn't give off sour flavors, but sometimes it does. I mean, sometimes that's the way that these guys used to do these different types of beers, that they would stress the yeast in one way or another to create a different outcome. So it's
Right.
fascinating. Like there's all kinds of different avenues that you could look into when it comes to brewing beers and just kind of get lost down a rabbit hole. I mean, you can get lost down a rabbit hole of just how you precondition your water before you start your brew. You can get lost down the rabbit hole of like just the different strains of yeast that are out there. There's like thousands of different types to choose from, really, when you look all over the place. I mean, I mean, there's standard yeasts that are used, and some people will actually still. I'm curious to try that one time too. Is to make my own like wild yeast strain. So you just collect yeast. Well, no, you collect yeast.
I just saw like this little party of yeast, just like, woo, y'all want to go down to the river and just like tearing it up and like
But
spring
something
break
simple
style.
as making a
Yeast gone wild.
you basically making a fruit salad in a suspension and
Right.
adding sugar
Yeah.
and just letting it sit.
See what happens.
Out of the sun, and I mean, I think all you need is like a cheesecloth or something over it just to keep like stuff from falling into it. But oh no, it has to be a one-way barrier. That's right, because I saw. Yeah, it has to be a one-way. You have to have an airlock on there of some sort. A lot of people will actually just poke a hole in a balloon, put a balloon on the top of it could be like a soda bottle. It really doesn't matter. Like any
Right.
bottle, whatever container you're using. If you're using something with a neck like that, you can use a balloon. I thought that was pretty cool.
We give it some breathing room, basically.
But yeah, you can basically make your own wild yeast strain just by like, say if next time I make a mead, traditionally meads were made by, you would take water, you mix it with honey, and your yeast would come in the form of basically you'd take, I don't know to what extent, like what, percentages or whatever, but you might take, a pound or two of grapes and just smash them up and just pour that whole mess right into the fermentation chamber that you're using and mix that with the honey water. And your fermentation would begin with the yeast that was naturally occurring on the peel of the grapes. So it would basically be like a wine honey hybrid.
Okay.
And those yeast are going to feed off all those sugars. It's going to feed off the sugars from the grapes, which is going to give off certain flavors. It's going to eat the sugar from the honey, which is going to give off certain flavors,
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, I get all that. I mean, that's like you said, they're starting to genetically.
and it's all genetically like you could just buy a packet.
This is what I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, anywhere from, I don't know, some of the cheaper ones, the basic ones are around $5-6, and you can go all the way up to, I think imperial strains are like close to $12 a pop for enough to do a 5-gallon batch, which yields 2 cases roughly.
Okay. Of 12-ounce bottles.
Correct. Well, I mean, if the cases would just be smaller if they were bigger bottles, but yeah. Of 12-ounce bottles, you would get 2 cases of 24.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. I mean, it's still a good party.
Yeah, that's not bad.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad. And in some instances, you only have to pay if you're able to brew beer in the all grain style, it's actually cheaper by using the grains themselves as opposed to doing something like an extract batch. Because extract, I tell people when I'm working at the store, I say an extract batch, the extract that you buy, whether it's a liquid or a powder,
Right.
is basically somebody who's gone through the trouble already of mashing something. They've created a sugar-rich environment. So the liquid stuff, if you've ever used it, the liquid stuff is like molasses. It's super thick. It's colorful. It's fragrant. Sometimes they'll actually add hop into it, so it'll be pre-hopped, so you don't have to bitter it.
Okay.
They make it so simple for beginners because they're trying to get people into the game,
Yeah, right.
But yeah, it's basically you've skipped that step of having to mash, and mashing is just where you sit the grains in a bath, basically at a certain temperature, and you try to draw out all the starches. And at a certain temperature, those starches start to convert. That's why eventually, after you pull all that off, you pull the water off of all those grains. Eventually, you mash out. Usually, while you're raising the temperature. And what you're doing is you're trying to create a situation where chemically those starches are going to start converting into sugars.
You're basically almost like starting to cook it.
Oh, you're bringing it up to
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's
after you mash out, you're bringing it straight up to a boil after that.
Yeah, it's the start of the cook where you're starting to get it to open up because I mean, a true cook takes time. You know what I mean? Like when you're barbecuing,
that's what you're doing. You're making a stew. Is really what you're doing. You're making a stew for the yeast to eat.
Yeah,
so you're making something really yummy for them, and you want to create all the proper conditions. You got to think of it really like another organism. That's what it is. I mean, I'm always telling you this. Like yeast
you're
are
making
actually
like an ant farm almost.
Yeast are actually a form of mushrooms, which some people would probably argue that are actually more intelligent than we are.
It's a fungi,
but just not conscious on the same level. But
they're like fourth dimension or some shit, or fifth dimension.
No, we're fourth dimension.
No, we're third dimension.
Are you sure?
Yeah. So if you think about it, we're technically third dimensional beings. Fourth dimension. I mean, well, you can still say we're.
Well, I thought the world we live in is fourth dimensional.
Well, so that's the idea of time, but I'm speaking
it's the
more
3 dimensions plus.
I'm speaking more on the level of frequency, not on. So when we talk like the 11 dimensions that we supposedly have for a minimum at this point,
it's at least 12 as far as Stephen Hawking, I believe.
I don't know. Last I heard was 11. So I don't.
12 outside of this.
I mean, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I heard.
I mean, I haven't been there. I'm just saying.
Well, that's why you asked. I
hope to retire
what
there
I'm
one day.
aware
just,
of.
Maybe before I die, that would be kind of cool just to kind of check it out. But
yeah, so like
I haven't been there myself yet.
Fourth dimensional would be able to see us in like past, present, future, so they would truly be able to step outside of time.
I would think that is like
I'm pretty sure that's
fourth dimensional.
No, well, that's fifth and sixth and everybody else.
Because we live within the 4-dimensional reality.
Yeah, but we're in the fourth dimension
we have
of that.
3 axes of space, and then time is the 4th dimension.
Yeah, but we can't perceive, like we are a part of time, not like, so we're perceiving it, not actually witnessing what it can be for
our
past,
perception
present,
of it
future.
makes it linear.
Correct. So it only goes one direction for us. So it's, it's basically, it's like we don't know anything different in a sense.
What if you did? That'd be weird.
Well, that's what DOG and cat stuff, you know what I mean?
That'd be really weird.
Well, but isn't that what Einstein did for the most part, where he talked about the light train? And it's like, well, if there's, a light in front of it and it's going at the speed of light and the train's going at the speed of light, it's like, would you see it? Right?
No, it had something to do with when you see it versus when you hear it.
Hearing light?
Would it? No, the crash itself.
What crash? No crash. I'm just talking about the straight, like.
Just the light.
Yeah, the train with the light projecting in front of it. You on the train going at the speed of light would never see the light in front of you. It would only be right there where it's being emitted, and that's the only place it goes. Because it's always traveling at the same speed.
I have to look that one up again because I can't remember that one.
Yeah, there's a few train versions. Because there was a couple.
So there was
others.
something where lightning strikes the front of the train and the back of the train at the same time, and blah blah blah.
Was that an Einstein?
I think that was an Einstein. I
don't recall that one from him. To be honest, I don't remember a lightning with Einstein.
How did we get here?
Same way as always. Beers in the green room.
And
your beers, by the way.
And continuing to drink my beer. This is really for something so simple. It's got a strange complexity to it, doesn't it?
Bro, I told you this is crushable. This is why I'm like, this is a session, hella flavorful, but at the same time, like super chill. Just a little citrus on it.
I mean, I could do that again and just toy with the hop additions and try to raise the.
I mean,
the IBU.
No, me personally, I'm
just the way it is.
Yeah, I wouldn't change anything. I would drink this.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that's saying a lot. You know what I mean? For like beer and stuff, that's not mine.
Yeah, I really think after it cleared out a bit, like after it settled down and it cleared out a bit. I mean, the last one I had was even clearer than this, so I think it's just how long it spends in the fridge. But yeah, I'm impressed with it.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm impressed. I mean,
telling
considering
you
how much work I put into my ESB and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. It's not bad, but it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to.
What the last one you were talking about?
The second time I did the ESB, the one I did with this batch, because I did 3 and then 3 again, like consecutive three consecutive weeks. I did the ESB, I did this one, and then I did the Braggot. Was the last one that I did.
Okay.
Right. We were drinking the Braggot earlier, but this is the second one I did in that batch of 3. and the ESB was the first. And it I would say it got stuck. It didn't attenuate as well as I wanted it to.
Stalled out.
It stalled out. So it I can't remember what it landed on, and it wouldn't mean much to you anyway, but I mean, generally speaking, I would have preferred that beer finish out at like 10-12. So 1.012 wouldn't mean much to you, but it finished out much higher than that, which just means there's a lot of suspended sugar still in the solution. So I wanted an ESB, and it reminds me more of like an English brown ale. So it's got a sweet and like a tiny bit of tart to it. So it's interesting combination, but it's
almost
not
like a biscuity malt.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But it's not it was supposed to be a special bitter.
Gotcha, yeah.
And it wasn't dry enough for that. So I was disappointed with it, but it's not a bad beer.
Yeah, I heard you like it dry. Ooh, baby, I'll like it raw. So no.
I don't like overly sweet beers. I don't.
I don't mind.
I like crisp.
I don't mind
slightly sweet, maybe
the tone or the hint of sweetness, but when it is actually like sugary, so when there is a true sweetness to it as opposed to just the tone kind of floating there.
And if you started doing this, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. That when you see a certain number as your final result,
you're talking specific gravity.
Yes,
you can find out how many dissolved sugars. And
so when you look at your
comparison of when you started to, we've had, dude, bro,
your final
gravity. I listen.
So generally
I know
speaking,
stuff now.
Like for a stout to finish at 1.018 or 1.020 isn't too bad because it's a stout. It's more like a meal than it is. You know what I mean? It's a very low ABV. It's meant to fill you up. It's full of vitamins, which we've discussed before.
The B vitamins.
The B vitamins. Yep.
Right.
Versus like an English bitter should finish out, I would think, under 15. I would say 1.015, but definitely under that, preferably. And I think I came in slightly over that. So would have preferred 12. Maybe next time. But that's how you learn. I mean, because basically, and it's only my fault because I had completely prepped based on time when I wanted to bottle. And if I had checked a day or two prior, I would have known that I probably should repitch some yeast and let it sit longer. Because it had stalled out.
Right.
But I was impatient and I was prepped to bottle, so I just bottled. So, food for thought for the next time, I guess,
Okay. Well, I mean, regardless, I still like this one, so I did. I really enjoyed the first one
But this one, that's whenever you hear the word smash. And I think I'd have to look this up myself. Maybe our fact checker can check into it. But there are some, some pretty, I think there are some famous beers that are actually designed as smash beers that.
What do you mean by famous?
Well, like common, I'm going to say common beers that are smash beers. Mainstream, yeah. But I didn't actually look that up before.
You didn't come prepared? What kind of crap is this?
I didn't come prepared. No, I don't do that.
We don't do that. It's like when I went for the SATs, I didn't have a pencil or I brought a 32-ounce coffee with me and a granola bar.
That's kind of prepared.
Yeah, I was prepared to snack and wake up from a hangover. That's what it was. It worked. I
can't borrow a pencil.
I didn't do. Oh, the teacher that was the proctor. Proctor. Yeah, the one who was giving the test.
Sounds like you're going to get a rectal exam whenever I hear that word proctor.
If that's what you're into.
No, I'm not.
I'm just over here.
That's a weird word. I don't proctor.
That's a weird. It's so weird.
Or like Procter and Gamble.
Dude, that was one of my questions for trivia this week, bro.
Procter and Gamble.
Yeah, you know what they started in 1962?
What?
Pringles. What?
And what is the story behind that?
I don't know. I don't.
Were they supposed to sell tennis balls and it just fell through?
I couldn't.
And they got a big shipment of potatoes instead, and this is what they did.
If I'm recalling correctly, it was something like, they. At least that's what I think. I theorized. I was just like, dude, what if they were just like, well, what are we supposed to do?
Because they're clearly tennis ball containers,
right? Let's make some chips. Chips. We got some chips we can put in that thing. Let's do that. I think it was something about.
Let's put some chips in a tennis ball too.
There was an overlap of resources or something to that effect.
I love those stories though. Like, like
I don't know if the fact checker wants to find out the Pringles can dilemma.
Because it was a cool story about.
When it goes down a rabbit hole, but like, did you know?
It was a cool story about how Swanson got on the map.
Which Swanson?
The TV dinners.
Yeah,
because that goes way back. Like I remember getting TV dinners from Swanson when I was a little kid. I get excited. That was like a special. And of course, back then it was like you actually put it in the oven, and it took like 40 minutes to heat up. And you had to poke holes in the one section, right?
Oh yeah.
But apparently Swanson got their start because it was a shipping faux pas or something like that, and they got a whole bunch of turkeys and they couldn't.
Oh, I remember this story.
They couldn't take them off the train because they'd spoil. So they actually had a bunch of people brought in and made dinners on the train and packaged them and went straight from that to shipping. And it was like an overnight success.
Yeah.
Because they basically made you a turkey dinner that you could put in your oven and, but it was convenient back then if you thought about it, that if you could put something in your oven and 40 minutes later have a perfectly nice steaming hot meal, 40 minutes wasn't a long time to wait. You can think it took at least a half an hour for your wife to make dinner. So it was actually quite convenient.
Why's it got to be the wife?
Well, it pretty much was back then. What happened?
But so, if we're talking about because that was...
We're talking about, I'd have to look up the date. I don't know what date that was, but is our fact checker with us? Or is she taking a nap? What's going on?
Maybe.
Yeah, who knows? But
maybe she's just frozen and we don't know.
I don't remember what year that was, but I always thought that was a really cool story. That
I want to see something like in the 40s or 50s.
Kind of like that whole thing about making lemonade.
Yeah, lemons from lemonade. Or lemonade from lemons. Yeah, I'm going to take lemonades and I'm going to compress these. Make me some lemons. I'm going to make me an egger suit and give me some sugar water.
Beer.
Oh.
Beer. Right. Show.
Yeah, that's this is why when I do get into any kind of an alcohol, I really do prefer something that's been appropriately designed, as well as cared for, most likely aged somehow. There's a little extra behind it, as opposed to just like, here, let's slap some shit together and here you go, you got booze.
Which is, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I was about to just keep making noises there for a minute. I'm sorry.
You make a lot of sounds, but you ain't saying nothing.
But it's funny because the more I learn, the more I realize that. So, generally speaking, when you're talking about like your basic run of the mill beer, you think of like a Pilsner. And when I started learning about this stuff, I thought a Pilsner would be easy peasy, which in a way the recipe itself isn't complicated, but it's a much more complicated process to make a proper Pilsner.
Well, there's cooling involved, I think, right?
There's what's called like a step mash that you're supposed to do, which requires you to get to a certain temperature and then basically let it plateau for 10 to 15 minutes before you spike again. And there's certain ways that you add in and remove. I think in the old-fashioned way, you would actually do I forget what it's called, where you actually take a portion of the mash out of the main pot, put it into a separate pot, and heat it up to a higher temperature, And then once it reaches that temperature for so many minutes, then you take that and you reintroduce it into the main pot. But the idea being that you're basically trying to maximize the attenuation of that that beer. You're trying to get as much sugar out of that grain as you possibly can. And also through that process of mashing in such a way, and I would assume to some extent a result of properly lautering, which is when you take the water from the grain and filter it off into another chamber so that you can begin to boil. Or I think I got that right, but
I mean, I can't.
all of that lends clarity to the beer.
It sounds good.
And then also because it's a Pilsner is actually a lager by nature.
Right.
So lager yeast tends to work a little bit. It works a little bit slower, sort of, in the way it tends to offer. Well, not in a way. It takes much longer. It takes much longer at a lower temperature to lager something.
Right.
Like usually an ale, you can. Technically you can make an ale in up to 80 degrees. You really can't go over that, but most of them are around 68 degrees. Most lagers, the upper temp level is about 58 degrees. So it's about 10 degrees cooler, and it works a lot slower, but it offers a lot more clarity and a much smoother, drier finish.
Isn't that what you were talking about with like lagering your beer by putting it in the fridge or something?
Well, yeah, I think lagering is a technique you can do with a lager or an ale where it actually continues to improve while it's in cold storage, because all the sediment obviously is going to drop out. It's going to create a much clearer.
Right.
Some of the more harsh notes and flavors will get mellowed out over time if you keep them in cold storage. And some yeasts will actually continue to work to some extent, even in that colder environment, but very slowly.
Yeah, slowly, but...
So that's where you're talking about there are certain beers that are so complex that it's actually better to let them sit for up to a year. Not many, but there are some. Like I know I've heard... I think it's Dogfish Head. What is it? Because I like the 60-minute, but I've heard the 90-minute or the 120-minute are not beers that, first of all, they're not beers you buy by the case.
Not anymore, apparently.
They're extremely expensive.
Yeah, they are nowadays. Back in the day, they were not.
Well, especially when you think about the process they're going through. That means they're continuously adding hops for 120 minutes.
You hit 60 minutes, 90 minutes, 120 minutes, yeah.
Right. So, and I would assume that it's at the same rate that you would be adding them during the 60 and the 90. So when you talk about a 120-minute hop addition, and it's constant that they're adding these hops. It's like literally like you're adding a small addition every 5 minutes, because they're trying to get, I'm guessing, they're trying to get the full flavor profile of that hop, because the longer you boil a hop, the more alpha acid you get, which is just straight bittering. It doesn't offer a whole lot of flavor.
Right.
The less time it's in, when you get down to like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, the less time it's actually under boil, but it's still in suspension, you start getting more flavor notes off of it. So when you read, a package of hops and it says all the different flavor characteristics, whether it's citrus or piney or dank would be another descriptor that they use. Notes of grapefruit, stuff like that. All of those flavors are going to come through the less that you boil it.
Right.
Which is why dry hopping is a big favorite when it comes to IPAs, because it gives you, actually mostly what dry hopping gives you is nothing more than floral, like a fragrant, like it's giving you the nose, but it's not really giving you anything else. But anybody who knows anything about the human body, if you smelling is like half of the whole process of tasting something.
Right.
You know, it creates a whole nother level. I mean, but it's not bitterness. It's hoppiness, which some people confuse.
Well,
It doesn't. A good IPA doesn't actually have to be bitter.
Oh, I agree to that.
But it can sometimes come off as bitter because the flavor that you're getting is hoppiness, but not bitterness.
Typically, they do kind of coincide. So with one almost comes the other in a sense. And yeah, I want to say a lot of that's probably almost like preconditioning the palate for people receiving it. Because they're assuming.
And your palates change too. I mean,
yeah, they do. Dude, it took me 6 years to appreciate Scotch, man. Really did.
good Scotch, it takes a long time to appreciate.
Well, just Scotch, period.
I took a while to come around to Islay.
But dude,
Did I tell you about that?
Once, oh yeah. But that was like my thing was like once I hit that 6-year mark, then it was just like Scotch. Mm-hmm. You know, down it goes.
But I want to say I was probably in my group of friends. I was probably one of the earliest to become like what was like a beer snob, air quotes. I'm doing.
You half-assed those quotes. You only one-handed those quotes.
Beer snob. There
you go. All right.
Double air quotes. There we go. Because I was always seeking out some new and different flavor. You know what I mean? Especially like, I always joke, after I turned 21, it was like, never again Mad Dog, never again Jack Daniels, never again, cheap Natty Ice or cheap light beer. And I started really getting into a lot of the microbrews or even just drinking Guinness, that I got spoiled to it, but I would only drink. I refused to drink IPAs for the longest time. When I first couple
same.
years when I got in, I only liked dark beers. I like porters, stouts, brown ales. I don't know what else. What other category? Like I guess certain types of lager, darker ales.
I mean, I was never really a beer drinker,
Red ale maybe, but never.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
And then I got hooked on IPAs, and I haven't stopped.
I've drank like I up until the point when I really started to actually go out, I guess bar scene wise, when I was. Oh geez, I mean, I started going to the bars when I was 16. I'll be honest. We're also talking about like 20 plus years ago, so you know what I mean. So it was kind of allowed at that point.
You got some phone calls.
Well, plus it was a very small community that we lived in back then, right? I mean, the one town I was still in had a population of like less than 2,000.
Right.
Or it was just cresting the 2,000 mark or something. So, I mean, it was very minuscule, but yeah, dude, we did live in like a very Opie and, Ma Kettle, freaking Mrs. Cleaver. It was just like good old fashioned picket fence neighborhood.
Childhood around here.
Well, I mean, this area was just that. It was almost, dude, there was nothing going on. I mean, the fact that I got harassed for skateboarding was kind of sad. You know what I mean? Like,
Everyone got harassed for skateboarding back then.
Well, but that's the thing is, if you were playing street hockey, taking up the road, chucking freaking pucks at people's houses, the cops would like wave a hey, that's awesome. But yeah, you're out skateboarding, all of a sudden, I'm going to take that for you. You don't have the right. Gonna be honest.
And I mean, I'm going off on a tangent here a little bit, but
go figure.
Yeah.
Do it anyways.
But I mean, I've always said, like, especially when it comes to this area, like I remember growing up, and not to say that it was a great thing, that I'm sure you wouldn't, as a parent, want your kid hanging out at a billiard hall all their free time, but that's what I did as a kid. That's how I grew up. I grew up hanging out at a billiard hall.
Well, when you and I got to like all the 16, 17, 18,
all that got taken away. But it seems like after we finished high school, all this stuff started getting taken away, like the bowling alleys locally and the billiard hall locally from us.
Oh, for us specifically, yeah.
For us specifically got taken away. And it's like you wonder why there's an increase in like street fights or like stupid violence or kids shoplifting. There's nothing to do in town.
Yeah, kids want to get their bowl on.
Not everybody wants to go to the Christian youth group,
Or the freaking that's the friendlies for ice cream
or whatever. Yeah, I mean or had the money to do it. Like they had to find something that didn't cost them on a daily basis. So for instance, I've spent the money on my skateboard. I can go skateboard. I can spend time. That doesn't cost me anything. And I can spend time with my friends. I'm getting exercise. I'm having fun. I'm being creative.
Yeah, but you were hanging out with the wrong kids at
I'm
that
not saying
point.
I'm not saying me specifically because I never even learned how to ollie. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying that's not really important.
Moment of honesty brought to you by Mr. Gemini.
I'm just saying that this was a creative outlet for kids. During the time of us, I guess, coming into adulthood. Between the age of 15 and 18, and and beyond, that. As we started getting, I think, because we went to a whole different billiard hall by the time we were 17, 18, because that one was gone. And I just remember commenting on that, though, that the town, D-town, changed after that. That
the bowling alley.
there was a bowling alley and there was a billiard hall, and within a couple years they were both taken out.
Oh yeah,
and
retail.
I think that town just especially the kids in that town just suffered greatly from that. Like,
I'm not even gonna. I'm. This is. Yeah. I'm gonna. No. Not. Can't say something nice. Don't see. I have my opinions and feelings about that town, and I'm okay. I'm okay to have those feelings, and I don't.
You didn't really care much that those things got taken away, or.
Oh, this is. I don't even want to. I'm good with this. So I'm just gonna,
See, that's
if you want to spit, go ahead.
That's a funny thing, and I'll be completely honest. That's a funny thing, though, that I thought about, because we grew up pretty much right next door to just say it, Doylestown. We grew up right next door to Doylestown, but we never really. Girl that I was dating, but we never really hung out in Doylestown. You know what I mean? We would drive a half an hour away to go hang out in Lambertville or
New Hope, Lambertville, all that.
That was my second home. That was more my home than my home was.
Well, see, back in the day when there was way less traffic and the way we drove, it was only a 15, 20-minute drive. Now it's a half an hour.
I made it take a half hour. There was a Frisbee involved, and
yeah, I mean, you did. Freaking hippie. Tree hugger.
But yeah, I don't remember after a certain time, it was just, that town got, like you said,
it changed, man.
I used to really like hanging out in town there. And when the billiard hall was there, I mean, I remember from the age of 13, I would get dropped off there in the afternoon, and I'd stay there until I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Right.
And that was the same thing. It was that was my second home. My friends were my family. If I needed something, or if somebody else, we looked out for each other. There was a.
See, I was still skateboarding, so we were staying close to home because we had to, freaking board our way over there. We didn't have cars yet. So here we are. Yeah, we were just
I'd actually get Pops
skateboarding
to drop me off. And still, he probably thought that was better than dropping me off at the mall. So,
because let's go to the mall.
Because I remember that too, and you laugh at it now, mall walker,
mall walker.
But I mean, there was nothing. There was so little to do in town because we didn't grow up in the city. You know what I mean? There's not something different at every corner.
Mall walker, what do you do?
But
Walk in the mall.
But before that, I remember as a kid, it's there was nothing to do in town. The best thing to do was to get dropped off at the mall because you had all those stores you had access to. Mom and pop give you a little spending cash or whatever, or for doing your chores around the house, whatnot. It's something to do. Whether you go to the toy store and buy a toy and just start shooting darts with your friend across the mall, or have fun doing whatever.
No, I was skateboarding and I was buying skateboards because I'd break a lot of boards. Dude, I was not old. I was kind of heavy a kid. You know what I mean?
The arcade?
No, not really. I had gone there
arcade, and back then you could smoke cigarettes at the McDonald's.
You see, and I was never really a corporate America shopping kind of a guy. Like I
wasn't
don't.
shopping.
Yeah, but I don't. But I've never wanted to be around.
It was
that.
just somewhere other than home.
Do you skateboard? I would just skateboard. We would go all over like our towns and stuff and just like find little spots and
Yeah, my thing was just
try to
bicycle.
hide so that when the cops showed up, they couldn't see
When
us.
I discovered a bicycle, it was like this whole untapped region of freedom.
Bicycle.
No, I joke
want
though.
to ride my bicycle.
I joke that there's certain times like the first time you learn how to ride your bicycle and you get a certain amount of freedom and comfort with your sense of navigation,
Right.
that it opened up a whole new avenue of awesomeness for your life.
That's when I started
And then-
hustling Jolly Ranchers.
And then that gets multiplied when you learn how and you legally go through all the steps to learn how to drive a car. Like it's the next echelon. And I joked when I got my motorcycle that it was like both of those rolled into one, that's how awesome it is.
Sugar-coated ball of goodness.
It's like this whole new sense of freedom that you never had at a speed you've never experienced. So it was like both. It was like the best of both worlds. But
right.
yeah, all that for me, it was a bike. It was I would never got very good at roller skating. I mean, not roller skating, at skateboarding, because actually somebody broke my board. I didn't have a lot of money, so I couldn't replace it.
You'll see, that was I broke a lot of boards. That's why I hustled to, because I spent my money to buy new boards. I was always buying a new board.
That was your thing.
Oh, dude, I want to say there was literally times where I had just gotten back from getting the new board all put together, first trick, and snap, well, back to the store.
I know I just Freudian slipped on roller skates, but I remember you used to do quite a bit of rollerblading.
So that was more for hockey, because we started, the kids in the neighborhood were really big into the hockey thing, and I've always been very athletic. I enjoy pretty much any kind of hand-eye coordination, physical activity. So as more and more of the neighborhood and friends of mine were into doing hockey, let alone trying to do, I guess, the more appropriate, roller to imitate correctly for dry land instead of ice. So yeah, when I got into that was more of, it was for playing hockey and stuff.
Okay.
Which we used to, that was a common thing for us, was go to the park for most Saturday or Sunday.
Oh, what was the freaking movie?
And just play for, 3, 4, 5 hours.
One that every time I see that movie, I think about you, because it was I think when I first saw it.
Airborne.
Was it Airborne?
He called you a woman's piece of underwear.
Yeah, the kid that moved from the West Coast, right?
Yeah, from Cali to...
Moved from Cali to some cold state like Montana or some...
Oh, Minnesota or something. Minnesota.
So he had to...
Somewhere like that.
He had to pick up rollerblading. He had to switch to rollerblading instead of...
Well, I don't think he had to switch. I think that was one of his...
He was already doing... Yeah. Okay,
he was a surfer, rollerblader, and he couldn't surf, and then all of his rollerblades were...
And that was Jack Black was in, right?
I think that was one of his first, if not his first, mainstream movie, big screen. That may have been his debut.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just because I think we watched that together as kids, but that movie just always reminded me of you.
Honestly, there was a lot of really young...
Because you were that kid that moved from... But that's probably what it was. It was the parallels there. It was you were that kid that moved from Cali to an uncomfortable, what the hell is PA? And everybody here is weird. And
I remember showing up...
I remember there was a lot of things when I first met you that you were dude, this doesn't make any sense. He's and what you guys got to worry about? Nothing. Dude, you know where I came from? I had you know what I mean? I had to hustle. I had to run. I had to...
I think I very much, as I recall, because I've looked back on it a few times.
Yeah,
I very much... Well, because I was in California, dude, that was just, you grew your hair out, and I didn't get long hair until I was 13, 14. So I didn't really start to grow my hair out more until I moved here.
Okay.
Because in Cali, for the most part, I always had a shaved head. It was either like flat top or just all gone.
We had it shaved underneath and like the.
Oh, I had like the styles and designs. I had like Jordan 23
That's what I used to rock with, like the shaved underneath, and then you'd have like all that hair.
No,
The top
dude.
of your head would just get longer and longer.
I was like the pretty much the only
The skater
white kid that was going to the barber shops so that they could actually like trim and fade and do the designs with the razor. Like, dude, I was a little Chicano kid. You know, I mean, I'm white, but that's how I was raised, and that's like so. I mean, I had when I got my hair cut, when I can actually get one, which was every so often. I think it was like once every 3 or 4 months or something. It was like that's how often we would pay to get.
Did you go to Doug's?
Oh, well, growing up out here.
Yeah.
See, at that point,
You weren't doing that. Oh, no, you
I
started
was
cutting your own hair at that point, didn't you?
I wasn't doing anything. I was just letting it grow. Dude, I just let it all out. I almost never got it cut.
Didn't you shave something underneath?
Yeah, but that was when I was like 16 or I don't know.
Yeah.
I was much older.
Yeah, I did that for a while. I remember you were doing it for a while too.
Well, I think
Cut my
people
hair
still
for me because I didn't feel like spending the money on it.
you're like, yo, give me a hookup, bro. I need a fade. I was like, yeah, come on over. Well, because that was the thing, though. I grew up with that kind of style. So for you to have clippers and just be like, yo, go to your boy's house and get a trim and a fade. It's just like, yeah, come on over, man. I got you. And you were good at it because you practiced because you did it for your dude. And it was
Trimmers, $60, last for years.
Yeah, man. A good set, yeah.
Haircut, well, even at the time, $12 plus tip.
Dude, even back when I was like 8, man, it was still like 6 and change because you want a tip. So it was still like $8. So,
Yeah.
think about that. Haircut prices really haven't, like you go to the spa.
I got to tell you, nothing is quite like going, and I only did this once for real, like in New York City, like going to a for real barber.
Oh, dude, I know.
And getting your shit all like just trimmed up. Like, man, that is,
I used to go to a cat.
that's like the guy's version of the spa.
Yeah, dude, I used to go to this old dude. He was straight retired. Like literal old black guy, like in his 80s. And it was his thing to cut hair, but all he ever did was use a straight razor. And this was for shaves, cuts. He used a comb and a straight razor.
Oh, wow.
Told the best stories, wouldn't take a tip. Like,
so
dude, he was the dopest.
Okay.
Yeah. I miss that guy.
Use the comb, pull the hair up, and then just cut across it.
Straight, and he would.
That's old school, man.
And the freshest of fresh. He was $8, no tip, and he wouldn't take it. He would wouldn't. He was the real deal. But as usual,
well, yeah,
we
were kind of mellowing out.
Well, we had a really nice session of drinking your beers and talking about them and learning quite a bit about
Kept it light tonight, though. We didn't go crazy. We didn't. Yeah.
No, more about just enjoying life and learning and
or fall asleep. That was good.
Yeah, you didn't fall asleep.
I didn't
that's
fall
for
asleep.
sure.
Yeah. Anyhow,
hey, this is what we do here. This, some of us are entertained, some of us not so much.
Well, it was me last time, so I can't say nothing.
Well, you did have a couple of 9%ers. Tonight we only had a couple of 8%ers, so we were.
And I finished off with a 4, so
we were smart.
4-ish.
We were intelligent. But, this is as always. We want to ask you, fam, reach out to us, hit us up, ITY directionsmusic.org, or individually GEMINI Gemini at directionsmusic.org,
or Philly D PHILLYD at directionsmusic.org.
Yeah, this is I'm telling you, Philly D,
Mr. Gemini.
Miss JB.
Yeah, and as always, fam, we want you to be good to yourself, be good to everyone else.
Much love.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace.